Hi there guys. Yes, I'm back. And so I don't disappoint everybody, we'll talk about the weather. It's crazy. We've gone from sort of 90s and high humid, and now I think it's about 63 today. Pouring with rain, which is giving problems for a lot of people, including here. Dangerous amount of rain, and what with that and that hurricane approaching, what's its name, Florence? I can't remember. Anyway, it's pretty nasty. So thoughts to everybody with all this very foul weather. Anyway, enough of that. What have we done? Just bits and pieces really. I decided to make a second ram extension piece. If you remember, excuse me, itchy hooter. If you remember the video, I think, was it the last one? Might have been. Anyway, I've made a shorter piece, cut one or two corners, fairly quick. So I've now got two lengths that I can add on, either 4.5, 5 inch and a 2 inch, and that should cover most bases, I think. After that, I played around with some sort of kiddies spill-proof cup things for painting, I think. Having been inspired to see something similar that was Harold Waters showed a couple that he'd been given by Dudley Toolwright, I think it was, which I may have referred to. Very simple. 4 of those were not much money. Did some modifications, used a bit of aluminum tube, and they're now finished and usable. Third thing was, that's just 3 little bits of video that I took using an endoscope. I was looking at a rifled bore, and not very good results. I've had the thing for ages actually, and they're only about 15 bucks. Just plug it into the tablet and save the video. Anyway, I'll voice over that just to describe it, but the results aren't very good, but it was interesting. And then finally, I was doing a bit of digging, which is not easy in this chaos out here. I found an old digital IC tester that I made back in '92, and thought I'd see if it worked, which it does basically, but it needs cleaning up, and some of the little socket things that take the test leads, they're cracking up, aged plastic. But it was interesting to find that. I haven't made any projects of that size for a long time. And then finally I found another circuit board that I made from scratch. Crosshatch generator. Anyway, that was thrown in just for good luck at the end. Anyway, that's it. Take care everybody, if you're being hammered by weather or fires or anything. And I'll say thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye. While I've got a few minutes, I'm just going to make a shorter ram extension. This was the last project, if you probably remember. So I've dug around and found a short piece of pretty crappy material. I'm pretty sure it's 12L14, so it'll be easier to work with. It's not 1.5 inch like the other one, it's 35mm, but it'll do. So we're going to do a cheat here, make it real quick. I'm going to tap this, I'm going to stick to the 7/16 14. I'm just drilling this out, we're going to tap it, and then I'm going to use some all thread. We'll put that in, pop a roll pin across to lock it up, and that'll more or less be it. Nothing very critical. gone in about an inch, and then we'll tap that. Right. That will suffice. We'll get some all thread cut up. I just want to drill through for a roll pin. I'm only going to use an inch roll pin. I don't need to go right through to the other side. I've got an over-length roll pin, but to save using that, I'm just going to go down to an inch, which takes me just below the awl thread, and this end of the awl thread will tidy up in the lathe. Okay, a slight hammer mark on there, careless boy. Okay, cleaned that up. It's just a smidgen short, I think, but quite adequate. So there's the first ram extension, and that one is about 4.5 inch, and this one's about 2 inch. There we go. I was going to make an oil container out of a simple old tin can. However, Harold, Amateur Redneck Workshop, he was given a couple of modified no spill cups from Dudley Toolright, I think it was, and I did a bit of research to see what was what and decided I might try that route. So these, apart from the colour, these are the same. So they're no spill cups. Oh. So having got the top off, there's the actual top, and that's not going to do too bad for spillage, but I would rather have a tube down the middle. I also like a lot of weight, and I've got a couple of lead ingots here, the only two I've got of this size, which is actually very convenient. They're not quite the same depth, but we'll have one in each of these, and then, if this is going to work, I'm not sure, I just happen to have its usual thing, have a dig around. What have I got? What have I got? Two pieces of thick-walled aluminum tube, slightly larger, not a lot, slightly larger than the hole in here. So what I'm going to do is turn down a very small shoulder so I can get more or less a push fit in here, cut to length, and then in the bottom probably just run a milling cutter across so there's a free flow of oil. So we'll see. This is a very much suck it and see type of thing, but I'm doing two, one for the mill, one for the lathe, and we'll see what happens. just get these these pieces parted off to length. Right, just get the other one done. Right, that'll do. Well, I've just done a test fit prior to fixing. They finish up just a little bit short of the weight in the bottom. I probably didn't need the slots actually, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. So now I've got to try and fix these into the funnel top. I'm going to roughen up the, let's take this one out. Of course the plastic at the top is very thin actually, and the shoulder on here was, I think it's 45-50 thou, that's all it is. And even then on top this sticks up a little. But I'm going to try and roughen this up and use some silicone sealant and see if that'll do, and manage to resist the oil. I think other adhesives would probably succumb in the end. Okay, we've got silicone sealant around here, which is going to take a while to cure, but hopefully that's going to hold. And then we'll put some oil in the pots and be done. Well, we're ready to go. My favourite sulphur based cutting oil, and remains to be seen whether the silicone will keep things together and resist the oil. I'm hoping it will, so we'll give it a try. This is withdrawing from the muzzle. See, focus is awful, but the thing to note, although the colour is generally a bit weird, you can see some sort of orangey colours, and that is indicative of an overdue need to clean its copper deposition. It's a pity focus isn't better, but it does give a slight idea of rifling. Just with drawing the scope again, the colour at the bottom there is just light reflecting. Although focus is absolute crap, it doesn't appear that there's any noticeable copper deposition. This is essentially a fairly clean bore. Starting to withdraw, we can see the firing pin chamber, flash of light from the chamber gap, and then we work back. Not very good focus again. Well, you can see focus in the distance, but focus right by the head of the unit is not very good. So, wish it was better. Well, I'm only throwing this in for interest. It's a piece of test gear I made back in the early 90s for checking logic chips. I can't find the circuit diagram, and I've forgotten a few details on it, but I want to check it out and see if it's still working. I've got a load of old chips, and one or two of them I want to use actually. So that's the inside, and we'll put it back in the box and I'll show you the outside. I know I went to a lot of trouble when I made this damn thing. Yes. And I long ago made a load of cards, and that shows you, I hope, basically how we operate. That's a good old 4001 TTL. I may have mentioned that, yeah, I think I did. The top of this really needs a heck of a good clean. It's sat out all over the place. And what have we got here? A 4007. I must have spent ages making these damn things. Yeah, that's 14 pin, not a 16. And 4023. I mean, I got loads of these. Absolutely loads. Like that. Loads. So let's see if it still works. Well, my bad earlier. 402, 401. That's CMOS series. I've just dug out the 7402 just to test one gate, and we'll see if this works. So I've hooked up one gate, and this is a quad NOR gates. We've ordered up for one, and if we switch on to one of the gates or both, the output is 0. Go back, take 1 out, 2 out of the input, and the output goes to 1. So that's just a very simple demo on that one. Just hold out 7410, 3 input NAND, and we've got now the output's high. The output's high if any of the others are low, and if all inputs are high. And that goes low. Anyway, one or two things are not quite right. The most annoying thing is, and this is due to age, some of these, there's one here, well, this one, see this? Let's turn those off. There's another one down here, the little top pieces, top piece is broken off. So if I can get something similar, I'll have to probably replace them all. Anyway, that's just to give you some idea. A small discovery, which I ought to clean up and service it, make it work properly. Just before I finish on this little bit of nonsense, I've got a collection of chips of all sorts in here, layers and layers of them, and they're not all digital. Well, they're not all TTL and CMOS. There's some amplifiers, 555 timers, you name it, there's probably in there. This collection goes back almost decades, and of course I don't use them much more now, and I've forgotten an awful lot, as one does. Anyway, there you are, just something of interest, as I often say. You probably thought I'd finished, didn't you? This is one other blast from the past. It's one of the few printed circuit boards I actually made from scratch, which was quite a challenge. But this is a crosshatch generator, and back in the day when TVs had heavy glass tubes and thermionic valves, we used to use this sort of thing to set up the grid pattern, you know, to get rid of astigmatism and stuff like that. It's just another of those projects. It did get used, but not much. 6 CMOS chips. Interesting. Well, to me, maybe bore the hell out of you. Anyway, it was fun to make when I did it, which is, I can't even remember the date. It's probably about 40 years ago. Anyway guys, that is it. Thanks for watching.